Salute, squad. Welcome back to Fly High Productions with Mr. Follow Up. So check this out. Told you I'm right back in here. I'm a man of my word now. We gonna pick up right where we left off. Keep it moving.
We just discussed.
I do.
Now, publishing slide 28, can you explain for the jury, does that tower at 733, how long after is that call?
Approximately 2 minutes.
Is that a small, average, or large distance to travel in 2 minutes?
That was a large distance.
Can you explain for the jury what do you make of that, or how do you explain that?
Yeah, so again, between this tower and the tower used on the previous slide, I think it's about 7 to 8 kilometers. Again, that's about 4.5, 5 miles approximate. Don't hold me to the map there. And that's about 2 minutes in between those two calls. In discussing this with T-Mobile folks and other folks within our industry, if you go back to page 27, what we believe happened is...
I'll propose an objection to confrontation clause.
Ready response?
Your Honor, I need to approach to appropriately respond, but it'll be brief.
I spoke too soon, didn't I? Here we go with the sidebar. Well, at least they've been keeping it moving so far today. But just so we can get right back up into current, we gonna keep it moving too. I mean, fast forward a little bit. Kill some of this dead time. All right.
Agent Bernie,
Okay.
Have you
if
worked-
you're standing or sitting? If you're not using that, you feel free to sit.
Agent Bernie, have you worked with records from cell phone providers that are from the years 2015 or older?
I have.
And when specifically related to towers, have you ever heard of the phrase camping on a tower?
I have.
Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, so again...
Overruled.
You may answer, Agent Bernie.
Okay. So again, in the network, when your phone is on, it's scanning the environment, and then the phone picks the tower and sector with the best signal. Sometimes that device will finish a call and just go exactly to the next call, or maybe you ended a call because there was an incoming call and a tower and sector was already assigned and being used by the device. And that device then continues to use that tower and sector. That would be a term of an example of the tower camping or holding on to a tower a little bit past its normal range.
And Agent Bernie, that phenomenon, camping with cell phone towers, how has that changed from 2015 to 2024?
Yeah, 2015, you got to remember that's almost 10 years ago. The technology has obviously advanced. There's more towers. The processing and speed rate of our communication is significantly faster than it was, 9 years ago. So we see less of it now in 2024. than we did in 2019 and earlier.
And Agent Burney, without stating or relying on any conversation with T-Mobile, based on your training and experience, what is one or what is an explanation for the movement between 731 and 733 on these slides we've just discussed?
Your Honor, I'm going to pose the same objection. I don't believe that foundation is too late.
Well, we'll see whether he can answer it that way, but given the way the question is phrased, I would overrule that objection.
You may answer, Agent Burney.
Yes, so what we see when we look at page 27, we see an incoming call at 7:29 and 30 seconds. And then the next is a outgoing call placed at 7:31 and 17 seconds. Those two are in close proximity of times to the time period that those two calls. So in my expert opinion, I would say that device obviously still shows that tower and sector as the best signal and was in the footprint, meaning usable coverage area of that tower and sector for both of them. It had to happen, otherwise it would have went to another tower and sector. And then we see the next call again is at 7:33. Again maybe between the two towers a distance of like 4 miles.
Now, Agent Burney, I'm publishing slide 28. What is the general movement of the device associated with Jeffery Williams depicted from 7:33 p.m. to 8 p.m.?
Your Honor, may I stand again?
You may, yeah, please feel free to. I just didn't want you to feel like you had to continue to stand.
So again, 7:33, we see the call using this tower and sector in the area associated near the area of the associated address number 2. We have that a call at 7:33, 7:43, and one at 7:55, again using all the same tower and sector. And then we see the device start to move northbound. 7:58, it uses a tower and sector in this area, and then eventually at 8 o'clock, the device has continued to move further north. So again, first calls 7:33, last calls start to move in the northbound general area.
How many calls are depicted on this slide between 7:33 and 8 p.m. total that you were able to plot?
5.
How many of those 5 calls are between the device associated with Jeffery Williams and the device associated with Kevin Treadwell?
3.
Now, Agent Burney, do you see the call at 7:55 p.m. on this slide?
I do.
And where is the device associated with Jeffery Williams to the associated address at 35 Oak Drive?
We can see it here. Again, the tower and sector would provide coverage in this general area. So again, I would say the device is in proximity, close proximity to associated address number 2 at 7:55.
And Agent Burney, I'm going to republish slide 15. Do you see the 7:50 p.m. call on the device associated with Mr. McMullen on slide 15?
I do. It's kind of cut off right here. You can see the tower and sector here. That's for that 7:50 call right there.
And Agent Burney, who is the device associated with Mr. McMullen speaking with at this time?
This is a call, again, to the device associated with Mr. Treadwell.
And is the call we just discussed with Defendant Williams' phone, how much time is apart between those 2 calls?
So this one's 7:50, and the one associated with Mr. Williams, that call is at 7:55.
And in that time frame, with the call detail records you have, where are the devices associated with McMullen and the devices associated with Defendant Williams in that time frame, 7:50 or 7:55?
Again, the same general area. We see 7:50 obviously the device is in this general area, and the same on page 28. You'll see that at 7:55, the Williams device is in the same general area.
And Agent Bernie, I'm republishing slide 24. Do you see a 7:47 p.m. call on this slide?
I do. Excuse me.
And for the device associated with Mr. Bradford, where is his device at 7:47 p.m. in relation to the 35 Oak Drive address?
So again, at the 7:47 outgoing call, you can see the tower and sector that's used. Again, putting that device in this general area here, the same general area associated with associated address number 2.
And is that same general area in relation to 35 Oak Drive Southwest? Where is that in relation to the location of Mr. McMullen's, the device associated with Mr. McMullen, and the device associated with Defendant Williams we just discussed?
Yeah, again, that's still the same general area here all around the address, the Oak Drive address.
Agent Bernie, going back to slide 28, is there any gaps in time from the southbound tower in terms of when calls are made?
Yes, there's a 7:33, and then approximately 10 minutes later, 7:43, and then approximately 12 or 11 minutes later, you have 7:55.
And is it possible for the device associated with Defendant Williams to have traveled to the McDonald's from the area near the 35 Oak Drive Southwest as depicted on the slide?
Speculation, Your Honor.
I can ask additional questions, Your Honor.
All right.
Agent Bernie, how far, or what is the scale on this map, Agent Bernie?
Yeah, we see the scale at the bottom down here.
And using that scale, how far is the distance between 35 Oaks Drive Southwest, Atlanta, Georgia, and 150 Cleveland Avenue Southwest?
So the distance between this point here at 2 and this point here at M, which is the McDonald's straight line distance, is probably around a mile.
And Agent Bernie, have you driven vehicles before?
I have.
Can you travel 0.8 miles in 10 minutes?
You can.
Object to the 0.8 mile. Well, I'll move on.
All right, overruled.
Agent Bernie. Publishing slide 29. Where is the first call on slide 29?
So again, just a continuation of, again, a phone number associated with the Williams device. We see the first phone call here is at 8 o'clock and 15 seconds. We see that device here, and then the next activity is at 8:22, again, around the area of the Williams County.
And Agent Bernie, are these two towers, where are they in relation to Highway 85?
Yeah, so Interstate 85 is this yellow road that goes right here. So you can see this tower here, very close to Interstate 85. And then if you look at this second tower over here, it's obviously very close to Interstate 85.
So, Agent Bernie, with this call at 8:22 p.m., is the phone associated with Defendant Williams, where is that in relation to 1080 West Peachtree Street, Southwest?
Again, you can see the tower and the sector that's used, and it's in very close proximity to the Williams condo on the West Peachtree Street Northwest.
And Agent Bernie, going to page 27, from this 7:29 p.m. call incoming from the device associated with Mr. McMullen till the 8:22 p.m. call we just discussed, what is the general movement of Defendant Williams' device?
Yeah, so the device obviously starts up here in the area around the Williams condo. It moves southbound, eventually being in the general area around associated address number 2 at 7:33. Again, there's activity at 7:33, 7:43, and 7:55, and then the device starts to move northbound again, eventually reaching the area around the condo at an activity around 8:22.
And Agent Bernie, with that general route of travel you just described, I am republishing slide 15. How does the travel of the device associated with Mr. McMullen between 7:29 p.m. and roughly 8:21 p.m. compare with the movement of the device associated with Defendant Williams in that time frame?
Yeah, they're similar. Obviously they start around the same location, around the same time period. They move to the general area around associated address number 2, around the same time period, or roughly the same time period, and then move back. So again, similar travel patterns.
And Agent Bernie, is the device in this time window, is the devices associated with Mr. McMullen and the devices associated with Defendant Williams, do either, none, or both have communication with the device associated with Kevin Treadwell?
They both do.
Agent Bernie, I'm going to publish slide 29, slide 30. Were you ever asked to analyze or plot the device associated with Quindarius Zachary?
I was.
And what was the time frame you were requested to analyze Mr. Zachary's phone?
You see it listed there, 6:53 to about 7:56 p.m. on the 10th.
Publishing slide 31. Agent Bernie, where is the first call for the device associated with Mr. Zachary in this time frame?
Yep, so the first time is, again, we have this tower and sector used right here at 6:53 p.m., an outgoing call. We see that tower and sector again. We put the device in this general area here. And that's activity between 6:53 and 7:56, with one tower being used here at 7:25.
And so other than that one call at 7:25, does the device associated with Mr. Zachary in this time frame appear to remain in the same general location?
It does, other than this 7:25 call, yes.
And Agent Bernie, do you see a call at 7:56 p.m.?
I do.
Is the call at 7:56 p.m. incoming or outgoing?
It's an incoming call.
And is it associated with any device you were requested to analyze?
It is. It's associated to the 8935 device associated to Mr. Sledge.
Agent Bernie, I'm going to publish State's Exhibit, or it's not State's Exhibit, page 32. Were you ever requested to analyze the phone records related to a Kevin Treadwell with a phone number ending in 2643?
I was.
And what was the time frame you were requested to analyze that device?
Again, on the 10th, 6:23 to 8:22 p.m. for this device.
Publishing slide 33. Now, Agent Bernie, where is the first call on this slide?
So the first call on this slide uses this tower here, and it uses the north side of it. Again, we can see, based on these numbers here, 0 being the azimuth of north, we know that it used the north side at 6:23.
And Agent Bernie, when does it leave that tower and sector? Where does it travel next after the 6:23 p.m.?
Yeah, so it's on this tower and various sides of that tower until approximately 7:33, and then it uses this tower and one of the sides of this tower at 7:35.
And Agent Bernie, with that 7:33 p.m. call, was that an incoming or outgoing call?
You see the 7:33 right there is an incoming call.
And is it connected with a device you were requested to analyze?
I was, the device ending in 3904.
And after receiving that call at 7:33 p.m. from the device associated with Defendant Williams, where does the phone associated with Mr. Treadwell travel?
So again, it's in this vicinity to start. Now it uses this tower, specifically the north side, because 330 degrees would be this side right here. So at 7:35, it's on this side of that tower. Right?
And is that side of that tower, Agent Burney, where is that in relation to the McDonald's at 150 Cleveland Avenue?
So the McDonald's is located right here. We see that as kind of the yellow or orange M right there. And that tower, specifically that sector, we can see would most likely be in the coverage area. The McDonald's would most likely be in the coverage area of that tower in the sector.
And after that 7:33 p.m. incoming call from the phone associated with Defendant Williams, what is the next, or what is the next call?
So we got the 7:33 over here, again using this tower and sector. Then you have the 7:35 outgoing call using this tower and sector.
And Agent Burney, in this towers depicted, is the device associated with Kevin Treadwell ever in the general vicinity of the 35 Oak Drive, Southwest Atlanta, Georgia?
It is. That's the blue square right here with the number 2 in it. So anytime the phone uses this sector here or this tower in this sector here, the phone could be, again, in the general area of associated address number 2. So that would be starting at 7:45 right here. It's still using this tower, but we're using the sector that's oriented to 210 degrees, which is this side over here. And then in this box here, it uses this tower and sector, and those calls are from 7:49 until 8:11.
And Agent Burney, do you see between the 7:33 p.m. call from Defendant Williams, do you see a call after that, or when is the next call after that, if any, that the phone number associated with Mr. McMullen appears?
The next time is at 7:38.
And how far apart time are those two calls?
Well, you got 7:33 to 7:38, so approximately 5 minutes.
And Agent Burney, do you see the call with Tower 1616 depicted in the bottom left at 7:56 p.m.?
I do.
Is that an incoming or outgoing call?
That's an incoming call.
And who is that incoming call? Is it from a phone number you were requested to analyze?
It is 6080, device associated to Mr. McMullen.
And what is the next call on that tower after that call?
It is 7:58 right here, and that's an incoming call from 3904, device associated to Mr. Williams.
And how much time is between those two calls?
Approximately 8 minutes.
Now, Agent Burney, zeroing in on that 7:50 call with the device associated with Kevin Treadwell and the device associated with Demise McMullen. Do you see that?
I do.
And I wanted to publish slide 15. Where is the device associated with Demise McMullen at 7:50 p.m.?
Again, you can see the tower and sector used puts that device in the general area around associated address number 2.
And is those two devices between McMullen, the devices associated with Mr. McMullen and Mr. Treadwell, have calls between each other on that at that 7:50 time?
They do.
Agent Burney, I'm going to also publish slide 28. Do you see the 7:55 p.m. call on this slide?
I do.
And for the 3904 associated with Defendant Williams, who is the call at 755 between?
That 755 is an outgoing call from the Williams device to phone number ending in 2643, which is the device associated with Treadwell.
And where is the device associated with Defendant Williams on that call in relation to the device associated with Mr. Treadwell, the device associated with McMullen around that time?
Yeah, all of those devices, again, are in this general area here around the associated address number 2.
And Agent Burney, between the movements of the device associated with McMullen and the device associated with Defendant Williams, does the tower, do the towers utilized in that window of time of roughly 729 to 822, where are they in relation in general to I-85?
The towers that are utilized are very close to I-85 as they travel. The devices travel from the general vicinity around the Williams condo to the vicinity around the associated address number 2 and then back up.
Publishing Agent Burney slide 34. Were you ever requested to analyze the phone number ending in 9596 associated with Dora Greer?
I was.
And what was the time frame for that?
Again, you can see that here, 6:20 p.m. to 8:11 p.m. on January the 10th.
Agent Burney, can you describe for the jury the general movement of the device associated with Dora Greer in this time frame?
Yeah, so again, 6:20, first activity that we looked at here, again, puts that device north 75 area near Vinings. The device eventually moves southbound and then has activity around the area associated with the Williams condo there. First activity is at 7:37 and then remaining in that area until this slide, the last activity on this slide at 8:11. Again, using towers and sectors in this general area here.
And Agent Burney, does the phone number associated with Dora Greer ending in 9596 have any communication with the device associated with Kevin Treadwell?
It does.
When can you show for the jury where and when those communications are?
Yeah, so that device, the Treadwell device ending in 2643, are these calls right here, again, at approximately, or at 7:35 and 53 seconds, and then 7:36 and 2 seconds, and then 7:38. So 3 activities.
Agent Burney, publishing slide 36, were you ever requested to analyze the phone records for the device associated with Dolly Greer ending in 1990?
I was.
And what was the time frame for that request?
Again, looking at 6:44 to 8:27 p.m.
Publishing slide 37. Agent Burney, when is the first call on this slide?
So the first call on this slide is at 6:30 right here, is an incoming call. You can see the towers and sectors there.
And can you describe the general movement of the device associated with Dolly Greer between 6:44 p.m. and 7:04 p.m.?
Yep, so at 6:30 and 6:40, we can see the towers and sectors that are used here at 6:43, and then it uses this tower and sector over here, 6:44 to 7 o'clock, and then we see that device use various towers and sectors as it moves northbound. Eventually, the last call on here is 7:04 using this tower and sector.
And in this time frame, is there any communication between the device associated with Dolly Greer and the device associated with Dora Greer, ending in 9596?
There is.
Is there any communication with the device associated with Defendant Williams, ending in 3904?
There is.
Agent Burney, publishing slide 38. Where does the device associated with Dolly Greer, can you describe for the jury the movement of that device?
Yeah, so the first activity on that device is at 7:08. Again, we see the tower and sector here, and then that device moves northbound. Appears to be, along the 85 corridor there. Eventually arriving in the area around the Williams condo at approximately 7:11.
Agent Burney, publishing slide 39. Now, in addition to specific time ranges for individual phone numbers, were you ever asked to analyze activity around specific locations?
I was.
And were you ever asked to analyze the phone activity near 330 McDaniel Street Southwest?
I was.
And what was the time frame you analyzed that?
Yeah, so you can see that here, 6:56 p.m. to 7:28 p.m. on the 10th.
And Agent Burney, do you see the 7:28 p.m. call from the device associated with Kenneth Copeland?
I do.
I'm going to publish slide 12. Excuse me, slide 11. Is that call the same, or is this the call at 7:28 in relation to the Green Store?
It is. It's this one right here that we discussed previously, the 7:28. Again, you can see the tower and sector here.
And is that the same call?
It is. It's the exact same call.
And the activity before this, where is the device associated with Kenneth Copeland at 7:24?
Yeah. So again, here's that crime scene. We're looking south of that along 85. You have the associated address, Copeland's girlfriend here. The device at 7:24 and 7:25 again puts that device in this general area here, somewhere around the vicinity of that the other additional residence.
The 178 Maury Avenue?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So the device associated with Mr. Copeland, is it further or closer from the 178 Maury Avenue address or 330 McDaniel Street at that 7:24 p.m. call?
Yeah, it's significantly closer to the 178 Maury Avenue. Again, the device is going to be in this general area here.
Going back to slide 40. And Agent Burney, is the device on the left ending in 8008, is that the device associated with Mr. Bradford?
It is.
And are these calls depicted on this slide ones we discussed previously in relation to the device associated with Mr. Bradford?
It is.
And when is the last call that the device associated with Mr. Bradford can be plotted that is near the vicinity of the crime scene?
Again, you see that one here. That's 719, an incoming text message.
Publishing slide 41, Agent Burney, were you also asked to analyze phone activity near the McDonald's at 150 Cleveland Avenue?
I was.
And what was the time frame you were requested to analyze phones in relation to that address?
Yeah, you can see that listed here, 7:35 to 8:48 p.m. on the 10th.
So, Agent Burney, on slide 42, can you walk the jury through what this slide shows?
Yeah, so again, I was asked to take a look at phones near the McDonald's. The McDonald's location is shown here. I looked at any activity with towers and sectors that were in close proximity around that time period, and we see several devices that have that. So we can kind of go through those. The first device is this red device, 6080. That's the device associated to Mr. McMullen. We have this silver device here, ending in 8008. That's the device associated with Mr. Bradford at the top there. This tower and sector here is Sprint Towers. Again, provide coverage in this general area here. And we have the 5626 device associated with Mr. Zachary, and the 2643 device associated with Mr. Treadwell using this tower and sector here. Then the closest tower and sector to the McDonald's, obviously, is this one here. We have that 2643, again, associated with Mr. Treadwell. That's kind of this purple device having those activities. Kind of cut off down here is the 5991 device associated with Mr. Copeland, again, using this tower and sector here.
And Agent Burney, roughly in the time span of using the time span of 7:45 to 8 o'clock, are the devices associated with Kevin Treadwell, Mr. Copeland, Demise McMullen, where are they in relation to the McDonald's?
Yeah, the McMullen device, that red device here, is using this tower. Again, there's a Verizon tower there, a Verizon tower, and a Verizon tower. Those are the three closest. So we can see, again, that device is going to be somewhere in this general area. That's at 739 and 753. What was the other devices?
Treadwell, Copeland, and McMullen.
Okay. The Copeland device, we just have one activity during this time period. You can see the tower and sector it uses here. That's at 7:51 p.m. And then the Treadwell device, it uses this tower here and these two sectors here at 7:35 to 7:45. And then it also uses this tower out here at 8:32 p.m.
And Agent Burney, were you ever asked to plot phone activity near Defendant Williams' condo?
I was.
What was the time frame that you plotted phones in relation to that address?
So I looked at devices between 7:31 and 11:22 p.m. On the 10th.
Now, Agent Burney, can you help unpack this rather busy slide for the jury?
Yeah, so this obviously has a lot of information on here. The biggest thing is just seeing which phones have activity all around the general area of the Williams condo, and that is a significant number of these phones.
And Agent Burney, is in this time frame from 7:30 to 11:22, is there any devices that are at that location, both close to 731 and also close to 1122 in general.
Yeah, I mean, we see this, the red device associated with McMullen has 731 and 1122. There's 6 activities that use this tower and specifically this sector during that time period. It also uses this tower in sector once. There's another one down here that has 2 outgoing and 1 incoming call using this tower in sector there. Let me just quick look at some other ones. You have the 3904 number associated with Mr. Williams. It uses this tower in sector up here at 822 through 1057 for 5 different activities. It also uses this tower in sector here at 908 to 1042 for 2 activities. I believe that's it.
And Agent Bernie, were you ever asked to analyze any out-of-state movement in relation to this case?
I was.
I'm publishing slide 45. What did you analyze in relation to that?
I was just asked to take a look at, did any of these devices leave the Atlanta, Georgia area and travel to Miami on the next day, which was January 11th, 2015.
Publishing slide 46. Can you describe for the jury what this slide shows in relation to the device associated with Mr. McMullen?
Yeah, so again, you'll see the device that it's associated with in the top left-hand corner. This one's the 68 associated to Mr. McMullen. And then I looked at, hey, when did the device approximately leave the Atlanta area, and did it travel southbound? So this device, has activity in the Atlanta area on the 10th at approximately 11 p.m. And then I looked at, hey, when did it arrive approximately in the Miami area? So I reviewed activity until 2 p.m. the next day on the 11th. And what you see here is these dots are different towers used by the device as it as it made its trip from Atlanta to Miami. So the dots in this case are phone activities, either calls or text messages. This is a Verizon device, so these are just calls. And then I just put in some of the times of those to kind of get us a gauge at approximately how fast was the device moving and approximately when did it arrive, over into the Florida area. So this device, again, activity 11 p.m. up in Atlanta. At 4 a.m. we see it's near Macon, Georgia. 7 a.m. on the 11th, it's getting near the Florida-Georgia line, and then eventually it has some activity down in Miami at 1:25 p.m. And one thing you can't see on that slide is cut off on the bottom is, obviously I compared all the devices and their activity to see if some travel separately on different days or times, and which one had similar travel patterns. And so the devices of McMullen, associated with McMullen, Williams, Dolly Greer, and Dora Greer, all have very close activity along the same time periods in the areas I looked at, which are like Macon, Georgia, the Florida-Georgia line, and then arriving in Miami.
Agent Bernie, publishing slide 47. What does this slide show in regards to movement of the device associated with Defendant Williams?
Yeah, so again, had some activity at 1:28 a.m. in Atlanta, some activity just north of Macon at 4:38, and then activity in Miami at 1:43. So this device obviously didn't have as many calls or text messages as the other ones. Again, that's the only time we can see towers and sectors is when there's phone activity.
Publishing slide 48, can you describe for the jury the movement depicted, if any, on this slide from the phone associated with Dora Greer?
Yeah, so again, really only two activities during this time period. We have an 11:41 activity up in Atlanta, and then down here at 9:21 near Orlando.
Agent Burney, publishing slide 49, can you describe for the jury the movement depicted, if any, on this slide from the phone associated with Dolly Greer?
And so again, we see that phone number listed there. Had some activity at 3:28 a.m. A little bit further down is the next one at 6:04 a.m. And then eventually some activity in and around the Miami area at 1:43 p.m. on the 11th.
Publishing slide 50, can you describe for the jury what movement, if any, you see for the device associated with Mr. Copeland?
Yeah, so again, here we have the Copeland device, the 5991. We see on the 11th, the first activity is at 7:56 p.m. This device and the next device associated with Mr. Zachary have very similar travel patterns, but these travel patterns are different than the slides we just previously looked at. By 7:56 p.m. on the 11th, the other devices were already in Miami. So this one departs Atlanta approximately 7:56 or so, has some activity there. Around 10 o'clock, it's just, there's Macon, has some activity south of Macon. And then the next activity we have is at 6:58 a.m. on the 12th, and that's down in Miami.
And in general, does the device associated with Mr. Copeland travel closely with any other devices you requested to analyze?
Yeah, you can see on the bottom of the slide here, you know, those two, the Copeland and Zachary device, have more similar travel patterns than the others. So again, 7:56 p.m. on the 11th, device is still in Atlanta. Now we have 10 o'clock p.m. on the 11th, south of Macon along that, and then some activity, the first activity we see in Miami is at 6:58 a.m. on the 12th.
And Agent Burney, is this, can you describe for the jury, is this what you were just discussing with the phone associated with Mr. Zachary?
It is. So again, activity at 7:37 a.m. and then we see it reaches the Florida-Georgia line around 11:45 p.m. Has several other activities near Orlando, 2:30 a.m. and then into the first activity in Miami is at 7:19 a.m.
And Agent Burney, in relation to the report you generated for the January 10, 2015 murder of Donovan Thomas, is that in your generated report?
It does.
Now, Agent Burney, were you asked in relation to this case to analyze multiple incidents in regards to cell phone historical cell site data other than the January 10, 2015 murder of Donovan Thomas?
I was.
I'm going to approach you with what's been marked as State's Exhibit 180 Echo. And Agent Burney, let me know if you recognize State's Exhibit 180 Echo.
I do.
What is 180 Echo?
It is my report as it associated to an incident that occurred on April 26th of 2015.
And is that in relation to the April 26, 2015 shooting of Mr. Dwayne Carter's tour bus?
It is.
Your Honor, and is that a fair and accurate depiction of the report you created in relation to that shooting?
It is.
Your Honor, at this time, the State moves to tender into evidence State's Exhibit 180 Echo.
Admitted.
Your Honor, same objection. Thank you.
And Agent Burney, I'm going to publish, or you can reference in physical copy, slide 7 from that report. Now, Agent Burney, what were the phone numbers you analyzed, or I'll start this way. Are any of the phone numbers and associated parties the same from the January 10th, 2015 that we just walked through with the jury?
Yes, several are the same.
Question.
And I wanted to ask you about if there's any either new phones, or I'll do it this way. Is the top row, does that appear or not appear to be the same last 4 digits and associated names with that device from both the January 10th and the April 26th records you analyzed?
Yeah, the devices associated with Sledge, Jolly Greer, and Mr. Zachary are the same numbers and devices.
And for that middle row, the device associated with McMullen and the T-Mobile device associated with Dora Greer, do those appear or not appear to be the same associated name and number?
Yeah, those are the same devices, names and numbers.
Now, can you describe for the jury the remaining numbers and names we have not discussed that are either new or different than what we just went through?
Yeah, we have a device associated to Mr. Winfrey ending in 3383, T-Mobile device. We have a new Sprint device associated with Mr. Williams ending in 2920. And then we have an AT&T device ending in 8553 associated to YSL Enterprises. And then the last addition is a T-Mobile device associated with Mr. Garlington ending in 9229.
Now, Agent Burney, I'm publishing slide 8, and I wanted to ask you, what is the yellow icon that is marked with a V that's depicted on this slide?
Yeah, the V is associated with the Vault Studios. You can see it in the top right corner. I was given that address is 675 Metropolitan Parkway.
And what is the time frame for when you analyze phone activity in the vicinity of the Vault Studios?
Yeah, between 11:27 p.m. on April 25th to 6 a.m. the following morning on April 26th.
And Agent Burney, with this slide, is there multiple cell phone providers, cell towers depicted?
There are. So you have all 4 of the main providers that were in existence in 2015. That's Sprint, AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon.
And Agent Burney, with the device associated with Mr. Winfrey ending in 3383, when is the first call that's in the vicinity of the Vault Studios?
Yeah, we see that first call is at 11:27 p.m. on the 25th there. And we can see the tower and sector that it's used right there.
And in relation to that tower and sector, is there any number that primarily seems to be interacting with the device associated with Winfrey in that time frame for that tower?
There's a lot of interaction between that device and the device ending in 1990.
And who's associated with the device ending in 1990?
Yeah, we see that there as Ms. Gallagher.
Now, is there a gap in time, or let me ask you this, Agent Burney. Do you see the call at 1:15 a.m. for the phone associated with Winfrey?
I do.
Can you show the jury where that call is?
Yes, Mr. right there, 1:15 a.m.
And is that call, what device is that call between, other than Mr. Winfrey?
Yeah, it's an incoming call to Mr. Winfrey's device from that 1990 device associated with Ms. Dolliver.
And do you see a call that's depicted on the right at 1:19:38?
I do.
Is that also a call associated with defendant Winfrey?
It is.
After that 1:19 a.m. call, when is the next time that the device associated with Winfrey appears in the vicinity of the Vault Studios?
3:38 a.m.
So is it roughly or almost exactly a 2-hour gap between those calls?
Yeah, it's about a 2-hour and 20-minute gap.
Now, Agent Burney, when is the first call from the device ending in 1990 associated with Dolly Greer in the vicinity of the vault?
We have this one down here at 1:14 using this tower here.
And do you see the call at 1:39 a.m. by the device associated with Dolly Greer?
I do.
When is the next call that that device has in the vicinity of the vault?
The next call after that 1:39 call is this call. It's hard to see it. It's on this one here. At 3:53 a.m. Again using this tower right here.
And is that roughly the same or a little over a 2-hour gap between those calls when that device is in the vicinity of the Vault Studios?
Again, that's a little bit over 2 hours, 2 hours and 10 minutes or 15 minutes approximately.
Do you see the device associated with McMullen have any activity? Can you show the jury or tell the jury when the first time that phone associated with Mr. McMullen is in the vicinity of the vault?
Yeah, we see that is right here at 11:49 p.m. on the 25th. Again, using this tower in here.
And when is the last communication, if any, other than that call, between the device associated with McMullen and in the vicinity of the Vault Studios?
Yeah, the next activity in vicinity of the Vault Studios is this one here at 2:38 a.m. Again, still using this tower.
Do you see the phone number associated with Sledge?
I do.
And when, if any, is there any activity from the device associated with Mr. Sledge near the vicinity of the Vault Studios?
We have this tower down here with the call-out box kind of cut off there, but you can see it. It's at 12:01 and 12:34. It uses this tower in sector. Again, that's the number ending in 8935.
Do you see any activity from the phone associated with Mr. Zachary near the vicinity of the Vault Studios?
I do.
When is the first time that phone or that device associated with Mr. Zachary has any activity in that location?
We have this 4:13 a.m. outgoing call, again using this tower here.
And do you see any phone activity from the phone number ending in 9596 associated with Dora Greer near the vicinity of the Vault Studios?
We do see that 9596 at a couple seconds after midnight on the 26th, again using that same tower.
And when does that activity stop from that device?
You know, from the 9596, you have midnight, you have 1:16 a.m., 1:39 a.m., and 1:40 a.m. And then that's the last time that device is seen during this review period.
Agent Burney, I'm going to publish slide 9. What is depicted on slide 9?
So slide 9, what we have now is all of the devices in the vicinity of the compound nightclub. So the compound nightclub is going to be this blue box with the number 1 in it. We put it right there. So then again, any and all devices that I was asked to review that had activity in close proximity to that compound during this time period of 1:42 a.m. to 3:04 a.m. on the 26th.
Agent Bernie, with the device associated with Mr. Winfrey, does it have any activity near the compound?
It does.
When is the first time that device associated with Mr. Winfrey has contact, or not contact, but is in the vicinity of the compound nightclub?
Yeah, so we see it here at 2:01. Again, that device ending in 3383. It's using this tower right here, specifically this side on this.
And Agent Bernie, between that call at 2:01 a.m., when is the last call and tower that the device associated with Winfrey is in the vicinity of the compound nightclub?
So we have the last one is this one here at 3:03 a.m. And you can see the tower that it's using right there, specifically this side.
And Agent Bernie, do you see a call at 3:04 p.m. or a.m. from the device associated with Winfrey?
Sorry, I did it right here.
Does that appear to be traveling in a different direction?
Yeah, so we have, so if we're looking specifically at the 3383 device, again, it had tower and sector I'm using over here, but then we can see it's using this tower 2 different sides. The first is the 150 side, which is going to be this side. The second is going to be the 270 side, which is this side. So we can see that device consistently uses the 150 side until about 257, and then it uses the 270 side at 3:03 several times, and then eventually using a completely different tower at 3:04. So again, I would say that device is now traveling westbound.
Now, Agent Bernie, with the phone associated with Dolly Greer, does it have any activity around the vicinity of the compound nightclub?
It does.
What is the first time it has any activity near there?
It is at 2:01 a.m. and we see that tower right there.
When is the last activity that the phone associated with Dolly Greer has near the compound nightclub?
It's at 3:03.
How does that first call and last call compare with the calls we just discussed related to the device associated with Mr. Winfrey?
Yeah, so we have these over here at 2, and then 2:35 and 2:38, and then we have the towers used on this device down here, 2:32 to 3:02, and then we have this device here, or a tower at 3:03 using the north side over here. So again, at 2:01 to 3:03, using these 3 different towers. This last tower, it's hard to really see. 3:03, it's using the 248 side, so this side down.
And Agent Bernie, is there any activity from the phone associated with Mr. Zachary in the vicinity of the compound nightclub?
There is.
When is the first activity near the compound from that device?
So the first activity with the 5726 is at 2:50 a.m., again using this tower here.
And when is the last activity from the device associated with Mr. Zachary in relation to the compound nightclub?
Is at 3:01 using the same tower and sector.
Is that 3:01 last activity from Mr. Zachary? How does that compare when the device is associated with Mr. Winfrey and Ms. Greer stopped having activity near the compound?
Yeah, again, it's around the same time period. You know, we had 3:01 for the 5726 device associated with Zachary. I think the Greer device was at 3:03 for the last activity, and then the black phone associated with 3383, Mr. Winfrey, was also at 303 and 304.
Was there any activity from the device associated with Demise McMullen near the Compound nightclub?
There was.
When was the first time that phone was near the nightclub?
First time is at 2:31 a.m. and you can see it used this tower right here.
And when is the last time that device had any activity near the compound?
Again, it's hard to see, it cuts it off down here, but the last time is at 2:33 a.m.
And Agent Burney, is there any activity from the device associated with Dora Greer near the compound in the time frame that you analyzed?
There is.
When is the first time it appears near the compound?
The first being this 1:42 a.m. Again, you can see the tower that's used here, same as the one here.
And when is the last time that device associated with Dora Greer has activity near the compound?
2:21 right here. You can see that tower in the sector that's used.
Agent Burney, I'm going to publish slide 10. Now, were you ever asked or did you ever analyze any phone or historical tower analysis between the devices associated with Mr. Winfrey and the device associated with Ms. Dolly Greer?
I was.
Can you describe for the jury between this window of time of 7:14 a.m. to 1:39 a.m. what this shows?
Yeah, so what we have here is, again, activity of the orange phone of 1990 and also the black phone of 3383. And we have, a very similar kind of phones in the vicinity down here. If we look at the orange phone, we have 114 and 115, again, using these towers and sectors here. And then 139 for the orange phone, the device has moved up this direction. If we look at the black phone, what we have is we have activity at 115 in this general area, then 119 and 138 using these towers and sectors. So again, we see a similar pattern of movement between these two devices. Again, 114 starting in this sector, moving to this sector, and then here, and then the black device, again, using this sector to this sector to that sector. One thing to note is that these two devices are different providers. And so they don't use the same antennas, and maybe not even the same towers. So you could have a device two devices be in the exact same location, but because one's T-Mobile, or one's Sprint and one's AT&T, they could be using different towers to provide coverage in that area.
Now, Agent Burney, I'm going to publish slide 11. What is the time frame depicted on this slide between the devices of Mr. Winfrey and the device associated with Ms. Dolly Greer?
Yeah, so again, we continue to look at these two devices. This is from 2:01 to 3:03 a.m. And now we're looking at the devices moved into the general vicinity of the compound nightclub.
And Agent Burney, for that tower that is 3090 and 2090 in the top right, do you see that?
I do.
Who is the device associated with Mr. Winfrey speaking with between that 2:45 a.m. call and the 3:03 a.m. call?
Yeah.
I would object. Oh, I apologize. Your Honor. I object to speaking. I understand you can say it's the associate handset to the
Sustained. Rephrase, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Agent Burney, the phone or the device associated with Dolly Greer ended in 1990, and the phone associated with Mr. Winfrey ending in 3383. What is the communication between those devices between 2:45 a.m. and 3:03 a.m.?
Yeah, there's several calls between those two devices. 245, you can see them, 245, 248, 249, 257, 303, several calls. So you can see those all listed here.
And Agent Bernie, do you see any calls in this time frame from the 6080 number associated with Demise McMullen?
I do.
When are those, or where are those?
Yeah, so you got one up here at 2:35, an incoming call to the 1990 device from the 6080, the Demise McMullen device. There's also down here another call at 2:33, an outgoing call from 1990 device to the 6080 device right here. And that's the last one.
And Agent Bernie, without stating the tower or sector, do you see any communication between either Mr. Winfrey, the device associated with Mr. Winfrey's phone, or the device associated with Ms. Dolly Greer's phone between Mr. Zachary?
Can you say that question again?
Yes. Do you see the phone number ending in 5726 associated with Quindarius Zachary in communication with either phones plotted on this slide?
I do.
And do you see any communication with the phone number ending in 9229 associated with Demekion Garlington between either Mr. Winfrey or Ms. Greer's phone during this time frame?
I do.
Publishing slide 12. Now, is this a slide depicting between 3:07 a.m. and 3:08 a.m.?
It is.
Can you describe for the jury this slide in relation to the phone associated with Mr. Winfrey and the phone associated with Ms. Greer and one another?
I can, yeah. So, again, these are the two devices, 3383 and 1990, between 3:07 and 3:08 a.m. on the 26th. And so if we kind of break it down, we see the first device, the black device, 3:07, it uses this side of the tower here, and then at 3:08, it uses this side of the tower here. So that device moved from this sector to this sector here. Now, if we look at the same time period for the orange device, we see 3:07, it used this tower and sector here. Then it jumps to this tower, 3:07 using this side, and then 3:08 using this side right here. So again, these two devices, very similar travel pattern during these kind of 2 minutes to show, hey, the device was in this side and kind of moved up to this side during that 3:07 to 3:08, and both of those devices during that time period.
Now, Agent Bernie, I'm publishing slide or page 13. Between 3:14 a.m. and 3:17 a.m., can you describe for the jury the movement of these devices?
Yep. So at this point, at the earlier slide, it looked like the devices were in close proximity or had very similar travel patterns. Now we see the devices have actually looked like they've separated. If we break down the devices, we go to the black device first. We see the first activity at 3:14, again, using the side of 330, which is this north side, then goes to 210, then it goes to this tower here and this tower here. So starting at 3:14 in this general area, and 3:17 down in this general area. Now, for the orange device, we have our first activity at 3:14 here, 3:15 now using this tower, and 3:16 now using this tower. So again, in summary, the black device somewhere here heading south and east, and the orange device first activity here and heading north and east.
And Agent Bernie, for the calls from the device associated with Mr. Winfrey from 3:14 to 3:17, where are they in relation to I-75?
Yeah, these towers are obviously right along this I-75 interstate. So,
Now, Agent Bernie, I'm going to publish slide in page 14 of your report from 3:28 a.m. to 5:21 a.m. Can you describe for the jury where the devices associated with both Mr. Winfrey and Ms. Greer travel and end up?
Yep, so again, this is same date. Now we're looking at 3:28 to 5:21. We put area of interest of the vault back on here. We can see that location down here. So if we kind of step through each of the locations, what we have here is at 3:38, we have the black phone in this general area here, and then it moves to this tower here. It's hard to see, it's right underneath the vault, but in the general vicinity of the vault, getting there approximately 3:38 and having activity from 3:38 to 4:27. Now with the orange phone, the first activity we have on the orange phone is 3:28. The device is, obviously up in this general area. It then moves southbound, 3:36, having activity in this area, and then 3:37 in this area. 3:38, it uses a tower and sector down here, and then the device moves back to a tower located close to the vault here that has activity at 3:53 and at 5:21. So in summary, what we have, again, is the black phone's first activity was here. Then it went over to use a tower in close proximity to the vault. And for the orange phone, we had activity up here. It traveled south along here and then eventually made its way back to the area around the vault, having activity around the vault around 3:53.
Now, Agent Bernie, I'm going to publish slide 15 for the device ending in 8553 associated with YSL Enterprises. Where was that phone during this time frame?
Yep. So again, this is in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. You can see kind of Baton Rouge downtown area here. Again, this is the device ending in 8553 associated with YSL Enterprises. And we can see all of the phone's activities in and around the Baton Rouge area. And again, it looks like the first activity of that device heading away from the Baton Rouge area is at 9:03 p.m. on the 25th.
Agent Bernie, I'm publishing slide 16. Were you able, or where was the phone associated with, or the phone number ending in 2920 located during this time?
Yeah, so that device had all of its activity in the Miami, Florida area during this time.
And is that a device that when you analyzed it, you had listed as who was associated with that device on the phones you analyzed?
Let me go back to that page. 2920 was a device associated with Mr. Williams.
And for the 9229 number associated with Demekion Garlington, were you able to plot any location information for that device?
No, the records that were returned for that device from the phone company did not provide cell site information.
May I just ask an inquiry?
Yeah, do you need to approach or?
I just wanted to know if it's okay, the 9229 number. Ms. Atkins, did you say that's associated with Mr. Garlington?
That is what the report that Agent Bernie has.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Sure.
You're welcome, Mr. Steele. Court's indulgence, Your Honor. Bernie, with what all we've discussed, are you able to, or do call detail records, are you able to plot FaceTime calls?
No,
Are you able to plot WhatsApp calls?
no,
Are you able to plot any other app or program that someone could use to communicate with someone that's not using the cell towers from those providers?
no. During 2015, all that was provided in the call detail records are calls made using your phone number. So it's calls and some text message using the phone number provided to you by the provider. So those would be what's considered data. And in 2015, we were not obtaining data records.
Now, Agent Bernie, I want to go back to slide 44 of your January 10th, 2015 report. States Exhibit 322 Yankee. You're welcome. So, Agent Bernie, on 322 Yankee, I'm orienting you to slide 44. And I'm going to be publishing that for the jury. Can you walk through the jury what names are associated with these devices that appear in the vicinity of Defendant Williams' condo between 7:31 p.m. and 11:22 p.m.?
Okay. So you have the device ending in 9596 associated with Dora Greer. You have the 3904 associated to Mr. Williams. The 5726 associated to Mr. Zachary. The 3145 associated to Mr. Cobb. The 5991 associated with Mr. Copeland. The 1990 associated with Dolly Greer. The 8935 associated to Mr. Sledge. The 6080 associated to Mr. McMullen. I think that covered all of them. Yes.
And Agent Bernie, I am going to draw your attention to 180 Echo pertaining to the April 26, 2018. And I'm going to draw your attention to slide 12. And I'm going to publish that slide in 180 Echo, slide 12 for the jury. Now, 180 Echo. Now, Agent Bernie, do you see Highway 285?
I do.
And do you see any area depicted as Atlanta Road?
Atlanta Road? I do.
Can you describe for the jury, using those as reference points, where these devices are in relation to those?
Yep. So again, 285 we see is right here, runs north and south right there. And then that Atlanta Road is right here, and it goes across this way.
Thank you, Agent Bernie. One brief moment, Your Honor. So, Agent Bernie, in relation to this, is that tower 2051 TAC 2 and 2051 TAC 3? Do you see that? 307, 308 AM?
I do.
Is that tower, if that device associated with Mr. Winfrey was traveling on Atlanta Road, is that consistent or inconsistent with that tower?
That would be consistent. Obviously, again, Atlanta Road runs like this. And at 3:07, 17 seconds, it's using this side. And at 3:08, 46, it's now using this side. So that would be consistent with the device traveling along Atlanta Road north and west.
And with the phone associated with 1990 Dolly Greer, does it have any activity around Atlanta Road on this slide?
It does. So again, we have the first one at 3:07. Atlanta Road, again, is this road that travels right there. So the first tower would be this one at 3:07 here, and then again at 3:07 and 3:08. So again, that would be consistent with a device traveling north and westbound on Atlanta.
Thank you, Agent Bernie. One brief moment, Your Honor. Your Honor, no further questions for Agent Bernie at this time.
Okay, let's
State.
break for lunch, and then we'll do any cross of this witness. So let's
Yes, Your Honor.
take an hour. So we'll see you back at 1:35. All right, and before we break, who, if anybody, is going to have cross for this witness, and if you are, how lengthy?
I'd like to ask the Honorable Agent Bernie questions, and I'm estimating 45 minutes.
Okay,
Maybe an hour, but somewhere like that.
okay. And then maybe a little follow-up from a couple of others?
Maybe 10 minutes from me,
Okay,
Your Honor.
all right, all right. Thank you. And then obviously have y'all's witnesses for after that lined up and ready to go.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, see everybody back in an hour.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So ain't no sense of us sticking around for no hour. Squad, go get you some lunch, some brunch, all that good stuff. And I'll see y'all back then. Till then, squad up.